If you knew how Jesus actually asked for things, you'd never pray the same way again. Most people think asking is about effort, persistence, or shouting louder. But that's not how it works. Not with God, not with faith. Jesus revealed a hidden law, a system for asking that moves heaven itself. Few ever see it. Fewer still practice it correctly. And once you understand what ask actually means in the world Jesus spoke into, you'll realize you haven't been missing blessings. You've been missing the mechanism. Let's get into it. It all started in Matthew 7 verse 7. But to understand why those words carried such weight, you have to see the moment they were spoken into. Jesus was teaching on a mountainside in Galilee, addressing ordinary people, fishermen, laborers, widows, the poor, the religiously burdened. These were people living under Roman occupation, heavy taxation, social instability, and spiritual exhaustion. They were raised under the law of Moses, taught that blessing followed obedience and that God's favor had to be maintained carefully. Many believed that unanswered prayers meant failure, hidden sin, or distance from God. So they tried harder, they followed rules, they memorized commandments, they prayed formal prayers, they feared getting it wrong. And underneath all of it was anxiety, not just about daily survival, but about whether God was pleased with them at all. That's the atmosphere Jesus steps into. He sees people who believe in God but don't feel safe with Him. People who pray but expect disappointment. People who ask but already brace themselves for no. And Jesus recognizes the pattern. They ask but with doubt. They pray but with fear. They hope but they guard their hearts. The very posture later described in James 1 verse 6 to 7. Then, in that moment, Jesus says something that cuts against everything they've been conditioned to believe. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. He isn't issuing a command to strive harder. He's reframing how access to God actually works. This isn't a new prayer formula. It's a revelation of the kingdom's operating system. Now, I want you to pay maximum attention to the revelation I'm about to make. In Hebrew thought, the word ask is not casual. To ask is not merely to request. It's closer to petitioning a father from covenant, not begging a stranger from insecurity. And in the culture of Scripture, asking always carried three invisible layers. 1. Identity, who you are to the one you're asking. 2. Authority, what access you have because of that relationship. 3. Alignment, whether what you're asking fits the nature and will of the one you're asking. So when Jesus says ask, He's implying something most people skip. You cannot ask correctly if you don't know who you are to God, because the quality of your asking is shaped by your identity. That's why some people pray like sons and others pray like orphans. Same words, different posture, different results. Let me reveal it layer by layer. Number 1. Ask is about agreement, not volume. A lot of people think asking means, God, please, if you can, maybe, I hope. But Jesus didn't teach prayer as uncertainty. Real asking begins when your request is formed from agreement with God's nature and promises. You're not trying to convince God to be good. You're aligning your mouth with what God already revealed as good. This is why Jesus could speak with certainty. Father, I thank you that you have heard me. Not my will, but yours be done. He wasn't guessing. He was aligned. So ask means I'm not praying from panic, I'm praying from covenant. Number 2. Seek is the part most people ignore. God changes you to carry what you asked for. Seeking is not searching for God like He's missing. Seeking is you pursuing the conditions that make receiving safe. Because sometimes you're asking for a blessing, but your character, habits, discipline, or mindset would destroy it if it arrived today. So seeking looks like wisdom for management, discipline for stewardship, healing for stability, maturity for responsibility. Seek is God's way of saying, "Come closer, let me shape you so you don't bleed out what I pour in." Number 3. Knock is spiritual insistence, not emotional desperation. Knocking isn't begging at God's door. It's applying pressure to the barrier between the promise and the manifestation. Sometimes the delay isn't God refusing. It's a gate, timing, growth, warfare, instructions you haven't obeyed, a step you skipped. Knocking means you keep showing up with faith, not mood, not tears, not hype, faith. And the reason many people quit here is simple. They interpret a closed door as rejection when Jesus taught it as a signal to knock again. So how do you actually ask the way Jesus taught? Let's make this painfully practical. Step 1. Convert your desire into a clear request. Write it in one sentence. Not, "God bless me," but "God, give me wisdom to make the right decision about this job." God, provide consistent income through honest work. God, restore peace in my mind and break anxiety patterns. Clarity isn't lack of faith, it's faith with definition. Vague prayers often feel spiritual, but they avoid responsibility. When a request is unclear, it keeps you emotionally safe because nothing concrete is required of you afterward. Clarity forces honesty. It makes you confront what you actually want, not what sounds acceptable to ask for. It moves prayer out of abstraction and into reality. In Scripture, people who received answers were specific. They asked for sight. They asked for healing. They asked for bread. They asked for wisdom. They didn't hide behind generalities. A clear request also gives you discernment later. You can recognize the answer when it comes because you know what you asked for. God doesn't need clarity, you do. Clarity aligns your heart, your expectation, and your responsibility with the request. Step 2. Check your identity posture. Before you pray, answer this. Am I approaching God as a beloved child or a rejected servant? Because posture shapes permission. If your prayer sounds like, "God, I know I don't deserve it, but..." That's not humility. That's an orphan mindset wearing religious clothing. It sounds reverent, but it's rooted in distance. It assumes God must be convinced, softened, or persuaded. Jesus never taught prayer from insecurity. He taught prayer from relationship. That's why he said, "When you pray, say, Father." Not master, not judge, not distant authority. Father. When you approach God as a beloved child, you don't beg, you trust, you don't perform, you rest, you don't negotiate, you receive. A servant asks hoping to be approved. A son asks knowing he already is. And this is critical. Your request may be correct, but if your identity posture is wrong, your confidence will collapse under pressure. That's why some prayers start strong and end in doubt. Not because God changed, but because the person praying slipped back into an orphan posture. So, before you ask for anything, settle this first. I am not trying to earn access. I already have it. Start there. Step 3. Align the request with God's nature and will. Ask yourself, does this request match God's character? Does it produce love, truth, purity, peace, justice? Does it make me more Christ-like or just more comfortable? If it's misaligned, don't force it. Refine it. Because alignment turns prayer from wishing into receiving. Step 4. Speak the request with faith language. Faith language is not pretend it already happened. Faith language is confidence in God's ability and goodness. It sounds like, "Father, I ask you for this, and I trust you to answer in the right way, at the right time, through the right door." Not control. Trust. Step 5. Seek by taking the next obedient step. After you pray, ask, "What is my part?" Then do it. Seeking is where prayer stops being only words and starts becoming alignment. It's the moment you move from asking God to act to partnering with what He's already doing. If you prayed for provision, apply, learn, budget, build, serve, because money rarely appears without movement. If you prayed for clarity, remove distractions, seek counsel, fast, study. Clarity is often found in quiet obedience, not sudden revelation. If you prayed for healing, forgive, rest, get help, change patterns. Because sometimes God heals instantly, and sometimes He heals through process. Seeking doesn't mean striving, it means responding. God often answers prayers by giving instructions before giving results. And many people stall here because instructions feel less spiritual than miracles. But obedience is how alignment is formed. Seeking is prayer becoming movement. Step 6. Knock with consistency, not emotion. Choose a rhythm. Example: for 14 days, pray the same aligned request daily, briefly, confidently, then act on what you know to do. Knocking is consistency at the gate. This is where faith matures. Not through intensity, but through steadiness. Emotion spikes and fades. Faith shows up again. And here's the key. Don't treat silence as absence. Silence is often preparation. It's space for growth, correction, and unseen rearrangement. In Scripture, long silences often came right before major movement. God works deeply when He works quietly. Many people stop knocking not because the door is closed, but because they expected noise when God chose stillness. Knocking means you keep showing up without needing reassurance every time. Step 7. Watch for the door shape of the answer. Many answers don't come as a package. They come as a door. An opportunity, a conversation, an instruction, a conviction, a sudden favor, a strong no that redirects you to better. This is where discernment matters. Because doors don't always look like answers at first. Sometimes they look inconvenient. Sometimes they look uncomfortable. Sometimes they look smaller than what you imagined. But doors require action. God rarely drops outcomes into your hands. He opens access and waits for you to walk through it. Receiving often requires recognition. If you're only looking for one specific form of answer, you may miss the door God actually opened. And here's the final truth. The door doesn't always remove fear. It reveals faith. When you recognize the door and step through it, you complete the system Jesus taught. Ask, seek, knock, and then walk through what opens. So, if this teaching hit you, comment, "I will ask like a son," or "I will ask like a daughter." And share this with someone who's been praying but feeling stuck. Because once you learn how Jesus asked, you'll never pray the same way again.